Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. This is a spur of the moment video that I thought would be a fun idea to explore. It was I had a discussion. I've been talking to geez, let's get this camera right. Been talking to a bunch of comic creators, especially those with children. Brian Bao says that his daughter loves Dogman and seems to be contentious. You know, I know your boy Zach is always talking about Dogman's not part of American Western comics. Traditionally it's children's literature. I kind of I'll walk that back a little bit. I'm not 100% sure what your boy Zach's thought on Dogman are, but I just know that it's been like this children's literature hasn't been calculated in the sales of comics since forever, and then all of a sudden it is, and it's being touted as proof by what's Rich Johnson that comics are doing better than ever. And then some people are saying that it's not comics. Other people are saying that it is comics. It's just comics through a different distribution system. So I don't know what Dogman is. I don't have children. I'm happily married, but we haven't been blessed with children. So what is Dogman? I've been hearing about it, and again, it seems to be a divisive issue. Is it comics? Is it not comics? Everybody agrees it's children's literature. So after talking about it for a while, and I was like, I really don't know what this is. So I thought I would. Oh, okay. I'll adjust the comments in a second. Let me just finish my thoughts. I really don't know what it is. And if you know me, I'm a pain in the neck. I don't accept anybody's word for anything. Much to my wife's chagrin, she'll tell me something, and I'm like, I still have to investigate it. There's very few people that I trust their word on anything. So that's caused problems. So I was like, right. I went on Amazon, $9. I had to get the hardcover because I'm a freak. And I got Dogman. So I took it out of the box. I haven't opened it up. I have no idea what to expect. Once I flip this kit, you can hear it crack as I do it. We got 11 people watching. Wow. A lot of people. Thank you for spur of the moment and a bizarre time. So first we got a drive-by blessing by Zachtan. You know what, Zachtan? I have to say, if I go live and you do not give me the blessing, it actually makes me anxious and nervous. So thank you. We got Vincent Flanagan. Time for me to get educated. Is it a dog? Is it a man? Let's find out. Right. I have no idea. And wow, good name. New name is what I meant to say. Well, it is a good name. It's a good new name. I get so excited whenever I see new people in the chat. Ellie, new Dungeoneer. Yes, it's for children. Yeah, that much I think everybody agrees. Everybody agrees it's for children. My kids like Captain Underpants by the same author. Yeah, it says by the creator of Captain Underpants. I didn't even know that. When I was a teacher, I knew about Captain Underpants, but I did not know about Dogman. We got Heroic Tales. Marcus is on the job. I just assumed he would literally be on the job. I didn't think he would be on the moderator job. So thank you, Marcus. So without further ado, just like all my other lives, I got my Hellboy mug, and I will take a sip of delicious Tim Hortons coffee. I'm on lunch. I feel bad. I feel like I'm making you work through lunch. I will say, I see we got some new names in the chat. I do have a comic book project. It's called Heroic Tales. First issue features the Patriarch. It is a return to Blue Sky, Bronze Age superheroics. The Patriarch is a loving father, devoted husband, beloved superhero. I might as well show the Patriarch since I got a card right here. He is, there's the Patriarch, and it's a return to like spinner rack comics. You know what I mean? Like I know I'm an oldie oldenson, but it's just a beloved return to classic X-Men, classic Fantastic Four, classic Avengers. Each issue is self-contained. Issue number 1 is on Kickstarter right now, and it's on Fund My Comic. So each one has a variant. Each platform has a variant cover, one by Pat Broderick and one by Michael T. Gilbert. Whatever you do, get them both. It's cheap. little secret. When all the campaigns are done, I'm going to bring them to Fund My Comic and have a catch up tier with all of the variant covers. I know I'm undercutting myself, but what do you want me to do? I'm a goofy comic book creator rather than a serious businessman. Comic is ahead of schedule. As you can see, the stretch goal cards are already made. Look at this. This is bent. Your cards won't be bent. I took the bent ones for myself. Just look at that. This just wonderfully retro look because it's inspired by the Villains Vigilantes. I got permission from the copyright holder to do all of that. So anyway, let's explore Dogman. That's tradition when you go live is you filibuster for a couple of minutes to let the people filter in. So there you go. Let's see if I can increase the light. There we go. Increase the light. Oh, I shout out where a shout out is due. I have to thank Pops from the Madness. He taught me how to do the camera and camera. So I have 2 webcams. I figured out how to do it. I used to use my phone, and it would create this awful feedback loop. But instead, I got the proper way to do it. So let's see how it goes. So here we go. We're gonna crack open. I love that. I love that. I love the sound. Did you hear it? So Treehouse Comics proudly presents Dogman. I love that. Okay. So an imprint of Scholastic. Wait, Pops. I know. Pops is even older than me, and this shirt. I just realized I shouldn't wear white. I shouldn't wear a white shirt. It makes me ethereal looking. Yeah, Pop's even older than me. Yeah, an old dog teaching an old dog new tricks. So let's read the credits. Written and illustrated by Dave Pilkey and as George Beard and Harold Hutchinson. Oh, okay. Written. So I guess he's using names with color by Jose Garibaldi. Okay, so this is the 27th edition. There's no way I'm getting the first edition of this, but I don't know. So it looks like it's written by a child. Okay. Again, this is my first experience with Dogman. I don't know. Okay, they started making the comics. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, one time George met Harold in kindergarten. Oh, okay. all the oldest over here doesn't get the newfangled word. Nice to meet you. They become best friends and started making comics. Their very first comic was an epic novella called The Adventures of Dogman. It's spelled wrong, and it shouldn't bother me, but it bothers me. Over the years, they made tons of Dogman comic books. Then one day in the 4th grade, they got a new idea. They started making a new comic, Captain Underpants. Soon their lives got really complicated. There was danger, horror, and ridiculously convoluted plot lines. All right, I'm not going to read the whole book. I just wanted to look through this. And so, okay, so this was a preamble about. So it looks like David Pilkey made up these 2 characters of Harold and as George and Harold, the 2 friends, made a comic. That's kind of cute. I like that. So that's the kayfabe of this. Kayfabe is my new word. I've been hearing it my whole life, and I never knew what it meant until maybe like 6-7 months ago. So Dogman, the hero is unleashed by George and Harold. That's kind of cute. So all of Dave Pilkey's books are distributed by Scholastic, and the kids get the packet in school. Yes. I'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to go through a couple of pages of this, and then we'll discuss this. So this is Dogman. Okay, by George and Harold. So I guess that's the conceit, is that Dave Pilkey made up these 2 fictional authors, and the fictional authors are making I didn't know he still used George and Harold. News to me. This is literally the first time. I saw the Captain Underpants books, and I just wasn't interested. The kids were reading them. So, okay, so I'm looking at this. What do we got here? We got panels. We got gutters. We got word balloons. Okay, looks like everything's kind of a flat angle, but that's the conceit. This is supposed to be children making comics. Okay, they're following the Z pattern. The tails are kind of broken, but that's bothering me more than it should. Like over here, there's no line, but over here there is a line that I know it shouldn't bother me, but it's bothering me. So like right over here, but then over here it's not. But this is following all the, this it's got wiggly lines. That doesn't bother me. This drives me crazy. Okay, and I'm not even reading the story. Kablooey, we got sound balloons, we got all the conventions, we got the stink lines, the stink lines. And if I was clever enough, I would have gotten the comics that I made as a kid. They're right behind me in my comic book room to show this. But okay, we got a caption box. Caption box is a different color, and and we got what I consider to be this is my model for comics, is one statement. So yeah, one statement and a reaction, and that's the most word balloons I'll put in a panel. That was one of my early comments with my comic script, with people like, I like how that you don't have just text boxes of in each panel. There's an appropriate amount of dialogue. But then all seemed lost. Hey, nurse lady, and again, the inconsistency of the word balloons is driving me nuts. But it looks like it's the style that he's choosing. It doesn't look like it's an error. It doesn't look like it. It's a mistake. It just looks like a stylistic choice. So this is the origin of Dogman. So what happened? Yeah, this Dogman is world's greatest cop. So he's a cop dog. That must drive the liberals crazy. He's a superhero cop. Rats, I unwittingly created the greatest cop. Oh man, the cat is a villain. Well, I like dogs. I love dogs. I got to fix my fence before I can get a dog. And by fix the fence, I mean build and install a fence. And then I'd love to get a dog, but no, we got two old cats. I think we'll let the cats just live the rest of their existence in dog-free peace before we get a dog. I'm going to keep an eye on you, the chief. So I love this. This is just a complete comic book tropes. The boss. This is J. Jonah Jameson. This is the superior bugging the inferior. Well, yeah. Although you wouldn't see Peter Parker do that, but yeah. So get out of here. Poor Dogmans. They started out badly, and I can't really complain about the lack of angle changes, because the conceit is it's supposed to be two little kids. I'll address the chat in a minute. So, and I'm not following the story, but I'm following the storytelling. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, because I see some new names, storytelling is the ability to figure out the story without reading the words. And that sounds like it should, oh, what do you mean you can figure out the story without reading the words? No, that's very important. That's very important, because a comic book is supposed to be almost like animation. The characters move in a certain way that follows a logic. It's the writer and the artist are supposed to work together as best as possible to create a fluid story, a fluid motion. This is before even the words. And the Marvel method kind of perfected that, because you'd have Stan Lee famously telling it, and the legend grows with the telling. But you have Stan Lee famously giving an index card of Jack Kirby, or maybe a one-page script, or maybe a full script, or maybe just do this, and animating it with his mouth and hands. And then Jack would go, come back a month later with the full comic with no words, and then Stan would look at what's going on in the pictures, and then through that write the dialogue, even though he had no recollection of what it was supposed to be, because he did that with every freaking Marvel comic at the time. So the Marvel method forced the artist to be really good with the visual storytelling. This, I'm following the story excellent, and that's good for kids, because this is supposed to be for beginner readers. And a beginner, like how when you're reading, you don't know what a word, but you get context clues, and that helps you figure out the word. and then you know, if you're like me, you look it up or you write it down. I used to write down words that I didn't understand on an index cards and look them up. You know, this is before before phones, obviously. But this is context clues for entire sentences and for an entire story. You know, let's get ready to Roomba. I don't know why that made me laugh, but look, we know what's going on. This evil cat is riding this vacuum. It's funny. Dogs are afraid of vacuums. Cats are also afraid of vacuums, but you know, and it's chasing poor Dogman away. You know, I look at these panels. Literally no words over here, and we're following the story. Okay, I think I've seen enough to make a judgment call. I'll leave the page open, and I will address the chat. The big vacuum. Okay, so he leads the vacuum into the water, and the vacuum is just getting fuller and fuller and fuller. And we all know what's going to happen on the next page. The vacuum cleaner is all filled. I've got to get out of here before this bag busts of seawater. Look at, could you follow the story? What's going on? Yeah, okay, all right. I was actually getting caught up in the story. I was actually getting caught up in this. 33 people watching. Wow. All right, so I'm going to scroll back up to my last comment. Marcus said he didn't know that he still used George and Harold. And we got, hey, Dave Brink is here. Dave, good to see you, man. Good. Dave Brink, for those of you who don't know, Dave Brink is is Genuine Comics. He's got an active campaign right now in Indiegogo for Perfect 10, number 5, and then the Phenomenals, number 2. I love this comic so much. I want Dave to make so much money that he doesn't have to worry, and he can make more entertaining comic books for me, because I'm selfish that way. David Flanagan, Vincent Flanagan. This is my first time ever seeing Dogman. I read Captain Underpants in elementary school. I had no idea it was a spinoff. So you read it as a kid. So I'm assuming you're light years younger than me, which makes no sense. Light years are unit of distance. Scholastic Gate keeps what kids read. Many parents are too lazy to look outside the plantation. Well, that is a topic of importance. That's like for little children. My early comic reading came in the newspaper. Yes. This is one of the most sold comic books today. I understand the appeal. Okay. Why are you going through Dogman? Because like I said, I don't know anything about it. I've been hearing Rich Johnson saying that, you know, Rich Johnson, the corrupt comic book news journalist, saying that comics are doing fine because Dogman is selling. And then, you know, I've had friends that told me that Dogman is a legit comic book, and I've had, you know, other people saying it's children's books. So me personally, I don't know what Dogman was. Just like if you remember, I did a video about genderqueer a couple months ago, because I've been hearing everybody talk about it, and I don't like to talk about things unless I experience it firsthand. So I'm looking through Dogman so I can make an educated conclusion. Is this comics? Is this children's literature? You know, so there you go. That's why Torchbearer and people and Marcus throw out the links for Dave Brink. Dave Brinks. This is legit comics. Dave, look at that link. Click on that. Legit, real comic books. It's got like a Perfect 10. I would say like it has like a 90s image aesthetic, but with Bronze Age writing. So to me, it's the best of both worlds. You're battling the rain. Oh, okay. Okay. You're talking about. Oh, Brian Bow, say hi to my daughter Charlotte. She just came in the room and saw the video. She loves Dogman and has all the books. Dave. What? Everybody's Dave today. Everybody who's comment today, your name is Dave, just because your doddering old man can't focus. Brian is one of the people that was talking about how much his daughter loves Dogman. So I said I'm gonna buy Dogman and talk about it. One of the inspirations. Introducing Fliporama. Be a flip master. Here's how it works. Extra cheesy. Okay, flip it. Don't rip it. First, place your left hand inside the dotted lines marked left hand here. Hold the book flat. Grasp the right hand page with your thumb and index finger inside. Now quickly flip the right hand back and forth until the... Oh, wow. Where are the images that flip? I can't even follow simple directions. I don't see. Step one, place you. Grab the right hand page with your thumb and index finger. Marked. Well, I guess it's. Oh, okay, right here. Left hand here. I don't see. I don't see it. Am I old man here? Old man here. All right. So people are saying hello to Charlotte. Charlotte, she'll be the exception to the Dave rule today. Okay. I like the dog. I even like Dogman as an adult. I bet I would have loved it as a kid. It's great to get people into comics. Okay. And then Brian Bow. Brian Bow is the author of, and he's the author, colorist, letterer, everything of Wolf and Batsy, a comic that I cannot sing the praises enough. So, okay, that's lifted. All right, so he saves the day, and they hip hip hooray him, for he's a jolly good doggy. Well, I guess I was wrong about it. He put her here, and then it made me laugh. He licks it, and the chief chases him around. Okay, chapter 2, Robo Chief. Now, I'm curious. Brian probably knows more than me. Was this like one floppy, and this is another floppy, or do they all come in these big collections that I just bought? I'm this was $9. This was $9 on Amazon, so I don't feel like I spent too much money to do this. Rated Tiger Mile, Smile, Guts Drama, does some decent young adult graphic novels. I ended up reading one at a doctor's office room and thought it was decent for kids. Hi, Charlotte. I'm from Charlotte. Brian, tell your daughter that they named a town after her. They named a city after her. It'll be interesting in 10 years how many collectors point back to Dogman as their first comic. Excellent point. Excellent point, Crenshaw. No, they all come like that in hardcover. Oh, so this is the only way to get this? Again, I just saw hardcover. So this is Dogman #1, hardcover, $9 on Amazon. And again, I didn't even want to look at the back cover yet because I didn't want to have my prejudice. So let's start a discussion. I'm going to read this whole thing later on today. So I just literally I got the box yesterday, but I got the box right before I was going to do my conversations. So I just left the box over here, and then I don't know if anybody watched. I had Patrick Thomas Parnell on, and that was great. We talked comics, we talked punk rock, we talked tattoos, and then I had Aaron Sparrow on for with RJ and myself for comic book team up, and Aaron we talked for hours. We even turned off the camera and still talked for another hour. So I was all adrenaline up. I didn't get to bed till like 4 o'clock in the morning, so I woke up real late today. But it's a rainy day in New York, and I'm reading comics. He says they come like this. Okay, I didn't know that. Charlotte is watching, so be nice. Hey, Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte. I love Princess Strawberry. I can't wait to see a Princess Strawberry comic book. You know, your daddy shows me your art. He's so proud of you. And I happy birthday, and happy birthday, Charlotte. You're the most beautiful princess in the world. So this is Dogman, and let's start at the basics. Is this a comic book? Yes, it's a comic book. This, you want to get fancy pants? This is a graphic novel. This is a graphic novel. It is a comic book. Now, the conceit is that it's written by 2 children. This is what are their names? George and Harold. George and Harold are two fans of comics, and they made their own comic book. So I don't know how old Dave Plinky is. I don't know if he's a School of Visual Arts or some Oxford University erudite artist or anything like that, but he's doing the conceit that this was a comic book drawn by 2 kindergartners, and thus the art fits that style. So the fact that it's got boxes, it's got gutters, it's got panels, it's got storytelling, it's got word balloons. I don't think anybody can argue that this is not a comic book. So that to me is the biggest part of this argument. Is this a comic book? Because I've been hearing it's not a comic book. So let's see a comment. It's actually my niece's birthday today, so maybe I'll find a Dogman store. What's your niece's birthday? Let's say happy birthday to your niece. Like I have children watching me, but give everybody happy birthday. So this is a comic book. How can this not be a comic book? Like, I will say that anybody who argues that this is not a comic book is wrong, because you know it's not Love and Rockets, it's not Crisis on Infinite Earths, it's not the X-Men, but it is a comic book. It's a comic book aimed at children. What are the hail to the chat from the Kit Hen. Hope everyone. I am having a good day, Woodrow, and it's good to see you, Woodrow. I'm having a really good day. Slept late, comfortable, rainy day. That's the best sleep, and got some chili heating up, and I got my friends coming over for board games. This is going to be a wonderful day. What are the arguments that it's not a comic book? Maybe I'm misrepresenting the argument, but your boy Zach took offense to Rich Johnson saying that comics are doing well because Dogman is selling. So I think I'm misrepresenting. I think even Richard C. Meyer would say that this is a comic book. Now, the subtlety of the argument that I was caught up in, is it fair for Rich Johnson to proclaim from the highest mountains that comics are doing well because of books like Dogman, and somebody else brought up Raina Telgemeier, who I know nothing about. So I think everybody will agree that, if you notice, I changed my mat. The other one was horribly disgusting, and I couldn't clean it. So I got a new mat. And I have to put this in there because I'm a crazy person. So I think all of us will agree, even Richard C. Meyer, even Rich Johnson, will all agree that this is a comic book. And it's a comic book for children. And I perused through the first story, or the first two stories, and I didn't see anything like objectionable. I didn't see any agenda. I didn't see any identity politics, unless a human being turning into a dog is you're going to argue for furries or anything like that. But this seems to be a good, wholesome, agenda-free comic book for children. Okay, let's see what Brian has to say. They're super easy to find at every Target store, partly why they're so popular. That's another thing I think we should talk about. Why is it selling so well? Two reasons. It's in Scholastic. So for those of you who don't know what Scholastic is like a reading program that is just it's like Diamond Distributors, but they go directly through kids. Diamond Distributors being the way comic books go. The companies sell to Diamond, and Diamond sells to the comic book stores. So all of these stores sell to Scholastic, which then puts out catalogs into kids' hands. So the little kids are exposed to this at school all the time. So I have problems with things like genderqueer and stuff like that. That is for older people, put into the hands of little kids in the same pages as Dogman. But that's an argument for another day. And I already had that argument if you want to look at my old video. And don't worry, Brian, I won't say that title ever again. I just realized. But this is Dogman. This seems wholesome. This is awesome. So I am in agreement. Scholastic has like a captive audience. And it's the biggest bookseller, I think, in America, because it goes to every public school and most private schools, if I remember correctly, and kids like, what's it, once a week, once a month? I forget. It's been forever since back when I was in school, they had printing presses. So when you ordered, they had to set up the letters. Steve Gutenberg had to use the Gutenberg press. So it took forever. So yeah, and you could get these at every Target. So this is perfect exposure, perfect targeting, perfect marketing. That's the word I was looking for. Marvel and DC. I don't know why they're not, doing, or maybe they are. I don't know. Are Marvel and DC available in Scholastics? Because that would just be such a perfect thing to do. Because I know cartoon books sold a bone in Scholastic. If Marvel or DC, if they could make it all ages, like they used to do, and get it in Scholastic, I think that would definitely boost their sales. But maybe they do already. If they're in stock, I hear they're popular, but I've never. Yeah, well, they're selling out. I won't name names, but some other comic book noodles told me it doesn't count as comics. Yeah. I'm not putting anybody on blast, as the kids say, but that is another reason why why this doesn't count as comics is beyond me, because it's the art form. It's not how it's sold. It's not where it's sold that makes it comics. Is does it follow the rules? Panels, words, art, you know, follows the Z pattern, gutters. It has all the convention. Oh, here we actually got a letter page. It's got all the conventions of comics. This is comics. This is comics, to the point Dave Brink was curious, what are the arguments that it's not comics? You know, this, I think by every empirical argument, this is comics. This is comics. Torchbearer Studios. If you live close to a half-price bookstore, you can pick up the Dogman books used for like $1. They always have. Oh, there you go. Ollie's. There's an Ollie's just opened by me, man. I freaking love it. I freaking love Ollie's. Do we feel good about the comic industry because this book is selling well? Okay, bing. This is the $10,000 question. Thank you, Crenshaw. So, I'm a big fan of diversity in comics. Comics matter. Your boy Zach, whatever name you want to use. I'm a big fan. I for whatever reason, the algorithm, the all-seeing algorithm, tagged me as a person who would be interested, and they were 100% right. So I caught on to him almost from the beginning. And that's been one of his rants and raves, that, you know, Rich Johnson is arguing the comics are doing well because things like Dogman are selling in Scholastic. And he's not wrong. Now, Richard C. Meyer, your boy Zach, is saying you can't count this because I'm talking about the American direct market comic book culture that we've all been talking about. And he ain't wrong. So what are the arguments? You know, what am I arguing about? So we all agree this is comics. Is this fair to count, to use this as an argument that comics are booming? Like Kelly Sue DeConnick and all of comics are booming. Are comics booming? Because I had an argument with not Richard T. Meyer. I never argue with Richard T. Meyer. I respect him too much. But I had an argument with Rich Johnson on Twitter. As a matter of fact, I had Brian Bow read my argument to tell me if I was crazy or not. And the argument is things like Asterix are in a million print run. You know, the French comic about the Gauls. I love Asterix, and I have a collection of Asterix right over here. Dogman, I looked at this. I didn't read it in detail yet. I just perused through it, and it looked charming. And are they comics? Yes, they are. So are comics booming? Is this proof that comics are booming? I will adjust the comments. I'll let everybody catch up to me before I talk about my thoughts. Dave says, or Genuine Comics says, these look like comics I used to make when I was a child. It does capture the essence it's going for. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it even legit made me laugh, and I barely read it. Just a couple of the images. Hey, Jim O'Reilly. Jim O'Reilly is a wonderful artist. He's working on Crom the Destroyer for RJ, one of my buddies, RJ, Fourth World Comics. You could go to Fourth Age. Geez, Fourth World is Jack Kirby. Fourthage.com and check out them. And I love when people say hello. I looked it up. Scholastic Web. Geez. My wife has COVID, and I think maybe I'm getting some COVID. So don't come over. I looked it up. Scholastic website has Marvel subsection with a couple of Miles Morales books and a Captain America. Okay, I did not know that. Why? Because I don't have kids in school, and I'm no longer a teacher. It's got some Shang-Chi. Marvel, good. That's what you should be doing. Is there DC? Is there DC stuff? Scholastic has Dogman, Underpants, Bone, and non-comic Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Yeah, I remember Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The rest of the catalog is Shiniko versus the Dragon titles. Yeah, those are like more of the young adults. The few good Scholastic titles are the bait, while the other that's a whole nother argument. That's a whole nother argument that, again, I'm not going to say the name of the title again. Charlotte's watching. Be nice. Hi, Charlotte. Happy birthday. If you're a comics as a general overreaching term, then this and manga are comics. Manga are comics. Yeah. Yes. And that's, again, I'm kind of beating around the bush because I'm really enjoying the back and forth, and I did not expect. I thought it was going to be me and like 3 people and one guy like, if you dude, you know what I mean? So if what else would you classify this as, Jim? I'm loving the comments. This is exactly what I was hoping for. Thank you so much, everybody. Kids today are finding Dogman every time us parents drag them to the Target to buy groceries, in the same way us old guys found Marvel and DC at 7-Eleven in the 70s and 80s. Now, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so these are some random thoughts. Let me know if I'm being eloquent or if I'm just being a doddering old man. But like Brian just said, when I went to the supermarket with my mom, with my dad, I found comic books. I found them. They were ubiquitous. Is that the word? They were everywhere. Comic books were everywhere. 7-Eleven. My mom my mom was a heavy smoker. Kent Kings. Kent Kings were $1.75, back then, at this, and a comic book was a quarter. So when I knew my mom wanted to get smoking, that was a perfect opportunity for me to just level in and go in with her to the 7-Eleven. She'd get $1.75 worth of cigarettes, which, Ken King soft pack. She stopped banging them on her arm. I don't know why, but that's what the smokers did. She would have an unlit cigarette in her mouth before we even left, and I would get the quarter right to the spinner rack, and I would get a comic book. They were everywhere as I bang into the tripod. So it was just perfect. Now Brian Bow takes Happy Birthday Charlotte into a store, into a Target, getting whatever what would Brian Bow get? I figure he would need combs because he's a werewolf to comb his arms and his neck and his back. So he needs combs. He goes through a lot of combs with the friction because werewolf fur is very bristly. So he's always going through combs and probably, I don't know, fang sharpeners. And then he goes in there and he sees Dogman, and his little girl Charlotte sees Dogman on the shelf. Now, you said this is the only way, these hardcover collected editions. So I wonder, like, would it be? I don't know marketing. I'm not that's a whole skill set that I really know nothing about. Do you think it would work better to make smaller, break up these chapters into floppy? Because it looked like this is a collection of stories. Each story to get its own little floppy. I don't know. So they buy this. So this is filling the void, and I feel that and the culture has changed, the world has changed, market has changed. I know that. You're not going to get comic books at stores anymore. They're too expensive. Everything's too expensive. Kids aren't really that interested. But is it 6 of one, half dozen of the other? Are kids losing interest because they stopped doing this? But I'm looking at this chat. We're all comic book fans. And I would say the average age is 30. I'm 56. I don't know how old Brian is. I never met Jim Riley, just through I don't know how old. I don't know how old DC Miller and Vince Flanagan seems like he's the youngin. So we'll just amalgamate all the ages to around 30. Where are the new kids reading comics? Are new kids reading comics? Well, Charlotte is reading because of Dogman, and maybe Charlotte will graduate to. Is there any mainstream all ages stuff? Because if she goes to Marvel now, it's not really for kids. Marvel is made for adults. I mean, I'm not saying that it's dirty or suggestive or but like the themes, I don't find Marvel comics to be something like 14-year-olds, 10-year-olds, a precocious 10-year-old, as Chuck Dixon always says. So I think this is comics. I think it's important. And I think this is like the gateway drug to comics. So, yeah. Okay. Now, the whole, before I say the next point, I will go to the chat. Wow, a lot of comics. So it's a comic. So Jim O'Reilly, who is a comic book artist, declares that this is a comic. And I'm not going to argue with Jim O'Reilly. He draws barbarian stories. Those guys are weird. I'm not going to fight with him. Don't see any DC on the Scholastic side. That is a shame. That is a total shame. Oh my God. Flash, Superman, Green Lantern. Why aren't they putting it in Scholastic for little kids? That is a blunder. A blunder. If you're looking at Western superhero comics, you may not decide to include this. That is the point that I want to close up on. They are comics, but I'm not sure if readers of Dogman will ever transition to traditional American style comics. Might lead to manga or Calvin and Hobbes styles of collections. Yes, manga is comics, and that's another bone of contention that diversity in comics always brings up is all of a sudden we're including manga sales. Now, I'm with Richard C. Meyer in the fact that when I'm talking about comic sales, I'm talking about was what we were. Oh, I guess I'm going to my main thesis here. Uh, when we're talking comics are dying, like I've been saying this for a couple of months now, comics are dying. I'm talking about the traditional fanboy, American style, direct market superhero, and and to a lesser extent horror and everything else comics that we go to the comic book store from Diamond distributors, which already broke apart, sell to comic book fans. When I'm talking comics, I'm talking wonderful stuff like Atari Force. Floppies. You go into the store, the comic book store. So the newsstand is gone. That's gone. Okay, that was the traditional entry point to most people. Now I think there's probably more people that got into comics via cartoons like the X-Men 97, Batman the Animated Series, G.I. Joe cartoons. And now I wonder if this is people getting into comics. And I'm still beating around the bush. So, are comics dying? Are comics dying, I guess, is the central thesis of this whole video. And is Dogman counted? It is comics, but are comics dying? Because if you include manga and if you include Dogman, comics are booming. It's just empirically the sales are, it's booming. But what is dying is the method of delivery, the comic book shops, the floppies. So I don't know. I'm starting to think that comics aren't dying. They're transforming. We are in a larval stage. What is it, pupa, and then the butterfly? I don't know. I'm actually changing my thesis as I speak. It might not be printed in a floppy format. The art might not look like George Press, but it's comic. Absolutely, it's comics. It's empirically comics. It's observably comics. When we talk sales, we're talking sales within the U.S., sales to shops, sales. Excellent. What do we? I see. I didn't know what to expect before I opened this book, so I really didn't know what my conclusion would be until I put my eyeballs on this book. But that's the way I am. I'm that's why St. Thomas is my favorite saint. Show me those wounds. I need the proof. I just need the proof. So, I get right now. My thoughts are changing. This Jim Riley question is so. What are we talking about? So let me rephrase the question now, because I'm trying to do the scientific method, and I realized I think I put up the wrong thesis. Are comics dying? Okay, let's change it to that. So we all agree this is comics. Are comics dying? I just had to bring up Torchbearer's comment again to refresh myself, because DC Miller says Torchbearer is exactly right. So Torchbearer says they are comics, but I'm not sure if readers of Dogman will ever transition to traditional American style comics. I will say you're probably right, and that's comics. That's traditionally American comic style fault, because they're not catering. I just had Mark Miller on my channel, who I learned isn't pronounced Miller. It's not Millar. And he said in Britain you had children's comics, and then at the end of the children's comics they had ads for tweens, and then the tweens would get their comics, and then at the end of the tween there would be ads for teenagers, and they got you from like cradle to the grave, like socialism. They got you right from the kids. So these are getting the kids. These are getting the kindergartners, the first graders, the second graders. And then what do they have after that? Like Brian. I'm asking Brian Bow directly, because he's the only person I know who has a child who's the prime target. What is Charlotte's going to move on to when she outgrows Dogman? What is there? What is the next step? I'm picturing her going up the stairs, and then she's going to take a step, and there is no step there. So she looks around, and over here is manga. So she jumps onto another platform. I'm a visual thinker. Okay, okay. I don't know if Dogman hits the soul the same way the comics grab does. We don't know that because we're not 7 years old. You know, I'm not a grade school kid. You know what I mean? But I remember fondly loving things like Harold and the Purple Crayon when I was 7. You know, it and that got me reading. You know, and then I moved on to the next thing, and then eventually comics, and here I am talking to you guys. Are we including digital sales? I is there an accurate number for digital sales? I don't. Oh, okay. Your ages. Hey, first off, I haven't thanked what Geek Student Network in a long time for making my opening musical thing. Thank you for making the intro. 32. So you're 30. I just assumed you were younger when you said you were into Captain Underpants. So that's how long Captain Underpants has been in print. Either that, or you just got left back a lot. You were like 28 years old, reading in 2nd grade. I didn't realize Captain Underpants was that old. These books prove that these kids today are still interested in collecting and reading books of stories told with words and pictures. I think this is good news for the future of comics. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that for many reasons, one of which is that Brian's a werewolf and he knows where I live. But yes, kids are voracious readers. Kids like story. We all like story. Human beings are hardwired for stories. I mean, hieroglyphics and caveman art. You know, we've been telling stories in a written, you know, hybrid of words and pictures since you know, I'll argue that comics probably predated like prose. You know, the earliest writing was pictograms, which was, you know, comics, you know, for hoity-toity people or whatever. So I think, yes, as long as we have comics and get to kids, of course, agenda-free comics, you know. And I'm not even against agenda comics. Like, if you know what I mean, as long as the parents' agenda is what you're giving to the kids. Like, if you're an Orthodox Jewish person and you want to make comics about, you know, Orthodox Jewish characters and send them to your kids to you know, cement them into your think that's fine. That's fine. I just don't like it when, you know, other groups. And again, I don't have kids, but I don't like it when other groups are doing their agendas and pushing it on to outside groups. I think, at least not without like the parents being informed of what they're buying for the children. And again, parents, it's up to you to know what you can buy. We're all 42-year-old men. I wish I was 42. 30, shucks, you're kind. Average 30, you're too generous. Maybe I'm flattering myself thinking I have a young audience. Dash out. I wish. Oh, you're prep cooking. What are you making, Woodrow? I used to love to cook. But my wife says I make a mess in the kitchen. So, you know, that thing that husbands do, they do things poorly, so the wife takes over. Perfected that with cooking and cleaning. But I love doing laundry. DC did do something similar a decade ago. They drew the superheroes in a very stylized, simplified way. They did not sell well. But did they sell to Scholastic? Did they sell to schools? Or did they sell to the comic shops? Because kids don't go to comic shops. When was the last time you saw kids riding their bikes to the comic shop, throwing their bikes on and going in and you know, and buying comics? It's mostly, you know, I'll say people younger than me, because the average person is younger. I don't think they're dying, but distribution is dead. Again, I can't argue with that. In Japan, the demographic is all ages with manga, and they are not seen or valued as here in the West. So not uncommon to see grandma in Japan reading it. Yes. The you know, originally comics were supposed to be disposable. They were cheap, disposable. And my dad used to tell stories of like they all had comics, they all traded the comics. You know, they would rip the covers off and stick the covers on the wall. You know, they'd throw them in the garbage, and then, you know, the war came, and the recycling and throwing the comics and, you know, giving it to the war effort for paper drives and things like that. So comics were meant to be disposable, even in the West. It's just that freaks like me started bagging and boarding their comics. You know what I mean? Like all my comics are bagged and boarded with the same kind of tape. You know what I mean? And then I'm alphabetized them in boxes designed for comic books in a room that has a humidifier in it. You know, so yes, even in the West, they are supposed to be disposable. But the problem is the disposable audience left them, and the collectible audience is sticking with them. So now they're gutting us at $7 a comic book, you know, in the mainstream because we will pay for them. You know, it's a story told through pictures and words. Cave drawings can be seen as comic. Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. Heroic Tales #1. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. I had a bunch of sales today. Talking now, attacking me. Thank you. Attack me. You know, that's my whole point about talking about Eric July. You want to hurt the guy you don't like, ignore him. Talking about me, I got a bunch of sales, I got a bunch of subs. Thank you. Thank you for attacking me. I think the floppy format is on the road to extinction for sure, but comics as an art form will survive in some. Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the link. No, comics are not dying. They are inanimate objects. Is the medium dying? No, we're keeping it alive by creating it. That actually got me a little emotional. I'm turning into a sappy old man, especially ever since a near-death experience. Harold ruled. I didn't know that there was a movie. You know, people are saying nobody wants new IPs. Well, we like new IPs, but let us know they're out there. I would have gone to the movies to see Harold and the Purple Crayon. I would have been that weird old guy in a movie theater. I was the only person with The Incredibles. It was me and my girlfriend at the time. We were sitting in the movie theater at The Incredibles with no kids. You know, I would have went. My wife and I went to go see Where the Wild Things Are. I would have went to go see Harold and the Purple Crayon had I known it was out. I didn't know. Marketing was terrible. Comics are declining for a number of reasons. As a parent, I could not, in good faith, buy my kids a current. Right. And that's one of the reasons why Heroic Tales #1 is all ages. You know, it's all ages. I think like Brian, he could give it to Charlotte. There's sexy women in it, but you know, it's a superhero comic book, but there's no nudity. There's comic book violence. And I would like to think that I will put enough Easter eggs in it for adults, and it's self-contained. I think everything, and yes, I'm promoting my comic, but at the same time, I'm making a point. If regular comics did more of that, you know what I mean? My sister has five, she has 4 daughters, 1 son. And they get interested in comics, especially since their crazy uncle talks about comics. And when they were, you know, now they're all reading on their own, but she would read to them. And she said she dreaded when they came with the comic book. She said she didn't know what was going on. She didn't know how to read it. It was referencing stuff that you know, and I think that was a disservice. If more comics were self-contained, you know, everybody kind of likes when they reference the past, you know, episodic building up, but like Friends, you could watch Friends and any episode in any order and you understand what's going on. But if you watched it from the beginning, you'll get little references and inside jokes and long-term jokes. Yeah, that's what I think. You know, these 12-issue epics are hurting the casual comic book buyer. It's a hard barrier to entry. I forget where I was. Comics are declining for a number of reasons. Apparently, I read that. I worked on Harold and the Purple Crayon animated series. So, I didn't know that. I didn't even know there was an animated series. I really enjoyed Harold and the Purple Crayon. I thought I played. That's how old Harold and the Purple Crayon is. I played Harold and the Purple Crayon. I just used to have a stick in my hand and pretend. How cool would that have been to have a crayon that you could just draw and make things real? My boy is 10. He dropped the Dogman scene, ignored my room of Marvel and DC, and spent 2 years. There you go. That's why manga is booming. That's right there. DC Miller. First off, I love your avatar. Who drew that? That looks like Josh Howard's artwork. Oh, it's probably your artwork. Duh. I forgot you drew a wonderful Patriarch fan art. Wonderful Patriarch fan art. But that looks like Josh Howard, who does Dead at 17, another guy I absolutely love. But this sentence right here, I've been talking for 54 minutes, and I think this encapsulated. Yeah, when you're done with Dogman, where do you go? Traditional American direct market floppy comic books has dropped the ball, you know, and manga is picking up the ball. I read Captain Underpants in 2001. I think it came out in 97. Yeah, well, yeah, I was teaching then, so I didn't realize it was that. Fudge, I'm old in this chat. I like to think I'm the oldest man in the room. Captain Underpants blew up in the late 90s. To answer your question, I guess time will tell if Charlotte graduates from Dogman to other comics. Okay. Charlotte now is my living experiment. I promise I will do my part to slide the occasional Spidey back issue over to her. And it's got to be back issues. You know, the Spidey back issues where it was a self-contained, exciting story where Spider-Man fights Dr. Octopus and there's a rising tension, there's a conclusion, you know, there's an epilogue all in one issue. You know, I mean, yeah, okay, if you got all three of them right then and there, that's a different story. But, you know, 12 months, that's a long time. 12 and at $6 a pop, that's really, I mean, Netflix, you could spend, how much is Netflix? $10 a month? And you could watch, you know, Stranger Things an entire season, you know, for $10. That's a lot of value. For a comic book, you're spending $7, $6, $5, and you don't get the whole story, and then you got to wait a month or crowdfunding. And I know I'm not being nice by saying this for crowdfunding, but you're waiting 9 months for the second part, you know, so, you know, I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Not only the publisher, and I'm including myself because I'm now, you know, even though my comic's not out yet, I'm pre in the industry. Not only are the publishers pushing an agenda, DC and Marvel are not really pursuing new young readers. Yeah, they do not have the confidence in the market to make books to attract folks seeing the movies. That is the biggest marketing failure in the history of the universe and previous universes. You know, you know, the oscillating universe theory. Boom, boom, boom. You know, somewhere there's the world of Tau where Galactus came from prior to this existence, laughing at the failure of Marvel and DC to not capitalize on the success of the movies. How anybody in marketing that tangentially related to Marvel and DC still has a job is beyond me. Absolutely. Jim O'Reilly. My son loved Captain Underpants. He doesn't collect comic now because kids like something when they're young. Yes, absolutely. I mean, like when my father was a kid, he said everybody read comics. This is the 30s and 40s. Everybody. They sold millions of them. A tiny fraction of them kept that love as an adult. How many kids played softball as a kid? I played softball as a kid. I loved it. I didn't play softball as an adult. You know, yes. See, you're hoping to get, you know, a fraction of the market. What will carry on the medium are the people who loved them as a kid, also wanted to create them and so on. Yeah, I know, but is it getting smaller? I mean, how many vaudeville fans are left? You know what I mean? Vaudeville is a whole, I don't know, genre type of, you know, that's just gone. You know, get comics into places where kids are bored, like grocery stores. Yeah. You know, and that's why I know this is controversial, but like the Bright Wires, how do you say their name? They did the Allegiance Arts comics. They did the crowdfunding for their books, and then the books went into Walmart before the crowdfunders. I give them a lot of leeway. You know, Bright Weiser was on my channel, great guy, and you know, I don't care. I got my books. I got my gloriously made imprinted with gold lame or foil or whatever you want. I got my books. I don't care. But I'm weird that way. But I understand why some people got mad. But you also have to understand he was trying to do something that I thought was very important, and unfortunately, he dealt with the Empire. I mean Walmart. You know, and the Empire famously altered the deal for Lando Calrissian. Well, the Empire altered the deal for Brett White, and you don't mess with Walmart. You know what I mean? And that guy suffered the slings and arrows, and you know, blame him because he walked willingly into a deal with Walmart, but you know, it's I don't know. I give that guy credit. I went to Japan and China. It was cool to see folks of all ages reading comics. It was frustrating because I could not buy them because I could. Yeah, yeah. What's his name? Chuck Dixon says that he buys manga in Japanese, and he says the storytelling is so good that he gets the gist of the comics. I think he was getting the fishing manga about the grandfather and their kid that were fishing, and it's not translated into English yet, and he absolutely loves it. My kids like the movie was good. I'm hearing it bombed, and I don't blame the intellectual property. I don't know to the quality of the movie. I blame that I didn't know that it was in the movie theater until people were telling me it was bombing. And is the Hellboy movie in the movie theater? Is this bombing too? The new Hellboy movie that nobody knew about? What's going on? Why is there Superman comics used to be made for younger kids? Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. As the comic fan is getting older, I kind of don't blame Marvel for aging up their material for the fan base. I do blame them for not, I'm trying to illustrate, for, the comics are aging. They should have then filled the gap with something else. Like they tried a few times with the Star line, and then they did the, I saw them for a while, All-Star Comics. No, that was DC. But there was a line of Avengers that just didn't have any continuity. It was just like the cartoons, but in the comics. I really liked them. I really liked them. I put this and I didn't read it. Link to Harold the Purple Crayon show I worked on. Scroll to the credits, you see my name. Oh, cool. Cool. It paid the bills for a year or so. Got to get paid. Marketing. Burgers? Oh, I know the meme you're talking about. That's a funny meme. I enjoy that meme. Deadpool and Wolverine is the biggest movie in the world, and what does Disney Marvel do? They killed him in the comics. Absolutely. To the point I think it's on purpose. Are they sabotaging comics for a reason? Is there a reason I don't understand? Like, what is going on? Again, people of Ta, the home world of Galactus, pre this universe, are still like, doesn't matter what you do. In the next universe over, they're going to make the world's worst marketing decisions. I don't understand. Yes, outside of every movie theater should have been Spinner X. Yes, absolutely, 100%. They Marvel and DC. Anytime there's a Marvel movie, anytime they should work with United Artists and whatever theaters there are, and get some cheap newsprint. I understand newsprint is expensive, but they should have made some mass market, all ages, family friendly superhero comics featuring the characters as they look in the movies. Maybe take like a Chris Hemsworth Thor and kind of make it a comic book looking Thor, so that when you do get the comic book Thor, you're not taken by surprise. Put him in the movie theater. Yes, if Jim O'Reilly and I, and Jim's not too smart. Let's be real. He's a nice guy, but hey, if we thought of this idea, it's a no-brainer. And yes, Batman 89 did that. I remember getting specific comic book tie-ins. I remember going to the movies and there were comics at the movie theater. They did it. I remember it. I was there, and I graduated high school at 89, so it's not like I was a little kid, that was making up memories. Good point. Since 2008, when the first Iron Man movie was a hit, all Marvel Comics to do is make comics that kind of yes, I talked about this with Mark Miller. He brought it up. He said the same story that I said. Biggest fumble in the history of this universe and every oscillating universe permeation. My earliest comic memories were my childhood barber. I don't know if there's a way to sell through places like barbershops, laundry, but yes, my barber. You just brought back a real pleasant memory. I want to open this up in case Charlotte's still looking, so she could look at Dogman. I went to the barber, and he was a scary old Italian guy, and smoked. So he's cut your hair, and he's got the cigar right next to you. You could feel the hate. You could feel the heat of the cigar on your neck. And he gave me a Battlestar Galactica comic to read. I remember the TV show. I didn't get the comics because, if you remember, if I said it a million times, I was more into superheroes, science fiction, war, and horror, or to me, to my way of thinking, best done on movies and TV. But superheroes, they cannot be done on movies and TV yet. So sci-fi, I didn't get the comics, but I got that, and I was fascinated by it. I wish I could remember what issue it was, to the point I went, this is pre-comic book stores, I went and I found all the issues that I was missing because of my barber. Excellent point. Excellent point. They could have had good sales for that. Absolutely. This is the biggest fumble in the history of fumbles. But Jim, it's a good thing you're beautiful. It's a good thing I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but it's a good thing you're beautiful. Master Swag. Hi. How you doing, Master Swag? J-Bot. How you doing? J-Bot. J-Bot. J-Bot is making kids comics. We talked about this. And J-Bot is partially the inspiration for this video. He's making beer. J-Bot, or Marcus, if you're still watching, see if you could, type in your links. Type in your links, J-Bot. He's making a comic, an all ages comics for kids. He's doing what exactly I'm talking about. Great point about making comics for sale at places where kids are bored. Again, like a 7-Eleven. Yes, absolutely. Our buddies with the guy who owns the local comic shop. He constantly gets kids who come in after the latest Marvel movie, ask for comics, which continues to, and there is none. I've been telling the same story, I've been telling the same story. My friend Larry, my friend Kenny, who owned the two local comic book stores where I shopped for the longest time, that people would come in. Oh, I want to get my kid. We just saw Thor. We want to get some Thor comics, and then they pick it up, and it's Jane Foster. Who's this? Well, that's the mighty Thor, Jane Foster. Not only is she a woman, but she's dying of cancer. And they're like, okay, I'll get some Pokemon cards, and you'll never see me again. Happened, he said, at least once a week. As a kid, I got Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Battlestar Galactica, and they were all canon. At least the time that they were canon, it was marketing. Yes, I got all those comics. I got the Star Wars, and I stopped around issue 7. No, I stopped, I think, issue 13 or so. I remember I got the first Jackson, the big green rabbit, but I stopped because it diverged too differently from the movies, and I'm a crazy kid. Indiana Jones, I got the first 2 issues. But without the charm of Harrison Ford, the nasty dialogue just didn't come out well. Battlestar Galactica, I loved. That was the exception. I got every issue of Battlestar Galactica. I love that comic. The reality is, though, comics will never die. There will always be a medium. There will always be comics in some form. What will have kept alive? The people who make it share them. Yes, that's it. We are in a transformation stage. We are in a transformation stage. So I and I'm just as ugly as that pilot. But okay, at least you could draw. We can agree on that. At least you got talent. Whose channel is this? Whose channel is this? I'm promoting somebody's channel. Oh, whose channel is that? Jim, 100%. My comic is Berserker. You can purchase the ash can directly of me. There you go. Market. We're talking about bad marketing decisions. J-Bot is making a good. There are only 30 left, $15. He sent me one. I feel like I owe you $15. I did buy extra copies of King Crippen, gave them to my barber. Too bad most books are too expensive. Yeah. Yeah. It's too expensive to do that. Although, when I was a teacher, I went to comic book stores and told them that I was doing a comic book club, and a lot of stores donated comics, believe it or not. Brian, I know I'm 100%. I do look like a rock. I'm not too far behind you. I forgot about the past. Nice memory. Yeah, you guys jogged. Am I at the bottom of this? So I'm at the bottom of the chat, and I've been talking for an hour. No needed, John. We're friends now. Oh, thank you. That was nice. I just want to make sure that people, especially when I see how expensive it is to make my comic, I can't afford to give it away, guys. I remember when Galactica 1980 came out after the Wild World of Disney. It sucked. Oh, is that when they went to the United States and they had the motorcycles? I remember that. Side note, this whole coverage is not allowed to read that awful, nasty Wolf and Batsy comic book until she's 18. Yeah, well, to be honest, nobody should be reading Wolf and Batsy. It's not made for proper polite consumption audience. But you're right. some comics aren't made for kids, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So let's tie this together. I got to put this in the middle there because that drives me crazy. Center everything. As a kid, I loved Galactic. Yeah, what did it last? One season? You know, Robert Hatchett and Dirk Benedict left. Although there was one episode of Galactica 1980 that it was the kid who was Starbuck's son, who was the Oliver of Battlestar Galactica. If everybody knows what I'm talking about, he was talking to Lauren Green, and then they cut to a flashback of Dirk Benedict trapped on a planet, and he became friends with the Cylon, and him and the Cylon had to work together to escape. That is my favorite episode of Battlestar Galactica during the worst season. There's an audience for everything. Absolutely. It's just, how do we get it? I believe that there's millions of comic fans who don't know that they're comic book fans. Yeah, Centurions walking through Times Square was dumb. The flying motorcycles were blah. Yeah. Cousin Oliver. Somebody gets what I'm talking about. I'm a big sucker for the original Battlestar Galactica. Me too. It was playing in the pilot episode. It was like a 2 episodes spliced together. It was playing in my movie theater for $1. I must have saw that 1 million times. And I got a sneeze coming. Yep. Excuse me. Yes. Okay. So Torchbearer knows what I'm talking about. My cat's name is Oliver. How dare you? Is he blonde and wear glasses? I've got the complete. I got to watch it. I haven't watched it in decades. I wonder if it holds up. That first, oh man, that's how I fell in love with Jane Seymour. Jane Seymour was the original girl who got killed, right, in the first pilot episode. Oh man, Gene Seymour was so big. The Ovions were the best. Yeah, those were those insect creatures. The insect, weren't they eating people? They were eating people, right? Starbuck Returns, the only good episode of. Yep. Yeah. Everybody remembers. Oh, he's the heart for Jane Seymour. Cylons, Ovions, and Jane Seymour. Yep. Desert Planet, Torchbearer. Oh yeah. The Ice Planet was the episode. I think it was during the regular basketball where they had to get indoors because at night the atmosphere turned to liquid. I thought that was great. Oliver died in the Sharknado movies. Oh really? They brought the actor. Have to run. Stay off my lawn. Ovians were cooking folks before it was cool. So they were eating people, right? I fell in love with James because of Sinbad. Yes. I maybe my memory is playing tricks on me. I don't remember which one I saw first. I probably saw Sinbad in the Eye of the Tiger. I probably saw that first. Now that you make me think of it. Okay, so let's draw this thesis together. Rich Johnson says comics are booming because of things like Dogman and Asterix. We all agree that Dogman is comics, and I think we all agree that Asterix is comics. That's European comics. This is children's literature. Your boy Zach is saying that we can't say that comic books are booming because this is children's literature. And now we're just folding into children's literature, into failing comic book sales to make the argument that comics are booming. Okay. This conversation is all over the place. That's why I'm focus, everybody. Focus. So what is the truth? That's the whole real purpose of this video. Again, I didn't know what Dogman was, so I wanted to get a copy in my hand, check it out with my own eyeball. When this video is over, I'm going to sit and read this whole thing because I paid for it. I got to read it, and it looked charming. So who's right? Is Rich Johnson right? Is your boy Zach right? And that's really and I'm by default always going to side with your boy Zach over Rich Johnson. But are comics booming because of Dogman? And in the wide scope of things, in the observable, empirical, scientific way, yes, comics are booming. This is comics and this is selling. So therefore he's right. But is he but is Richard C. Meyer? Yes, Richard C. Meyer is talking about the traditional comics, the way he loved comics, the way, the average Americana kid went to the comic book. But then again, that's also because he's younger than me. He's a good 16 years younger than me. So I remember comic books as the newsstand, you know. So for from the 40s to the 70s, I'll say the 40s to the 80s, 30 years, comic books were this way in the newsstand. Boom, you went to the newsstand, you rode your bike, you went to the newsstand, you went to 7-Eleven, your mom bought cigarettes and you got the change, you know what I mean? And you got comics. And then that changed and it transitioned to comic book stores. And a lot of oldie Oldensons, you know, that ain't the way it is. And, you know, and that transformed comics. And then, like Mark Miller says, he says that was great because it really opened up comics to different genres. Before that, you might have had, like, if you lived in, like, San Francisco, access to, like, Mr. Natural and the underground comics and you know, with the X, why can't I, Wits End and comics like that. But the comic book store had everything. It had Omaha the Cat Dancer, and it had Archie comics, you know. So that was a major transformation. And your boy Zach is a product of his time, you know, and I don't fault him for that. So when he's talking about comic books, he's talking about, you know, I always talk about, you know, we were in love with our first car, our first girlfriend, you know, our first comic. So he's talking about his childhood comic book reading experience. And in that respect, no, because this is outside of that. So he's right. So this is a more complicated topic than I thought. And now think about it. We had from 1980, 90s, we had 30 years of the direct market. So is 30, wow. I'm sensing a paradox. Is 30 years the length of time before the comic book market changes? So are we now? Yes, we are. We got crowdfunding. Now we're getting Japanese comics coming in. You know, again, my thesis is changing as I'm thinking. Proof positive that I'm not just stuck in a conclusion that I already created and then lead everybody to the conclusion. I really had no idea what to think. I'm like congratulating myself when I really didn't know what to think. I guess I'll merge a few episodes in my memory. Yes, back to Battlestar Galactica. Sequential art of some sort will always be viable, but that does not mean comics are booming. Okay? The numbers are unavoidable. Comics are not booming at all. Sales are drastically down and shops are closing. A few gems here and there don't change the facts. Comics are not booming. Direct market, American style comic books are not booming, but this is booming. And this is comics. And I'm not arguing with you, Logic Phonics. And plus, Logic, I would love you to come on the channel. Comics is booming, but comics aren't booming. Yeah, this, how do you say Schrodinger's? This is Schrodinger's comic. Schrodinger's boom. Schrodinger's boom. There you go. Manga sales aren't comic sales. A few gems here and there aren't comic sales. Dread it, run from it. Reality, yeah. On the nose, DC Miller. Yeah. This is the conclusion. You read Dogman every night, Hojo? And Hojo has a wonderful comic, The Mythicals. Drop your link. Mythicals #3. I love that promo art of Nancy Moon as David Bowie. I love that, Hojo. I'm so mad that I didn't think of it. Oh my God. You know it's a good idea when you look at it and you go, damn you, Hojo. So again, you know how, I didn't know you had children. Good for you, man. Six. So, and they both read Dogman. Now let me ask you, as the other person, because I know Brian Bao has, Brian, I think Charlotte is 7. Happy birthday, Charlotte. Her birthday was yesterday. Hojo, is your 6-year-old, is the target audience for this? Are they showing signs of moving on, or are they fully entrenched in Dogman? Good stream later on. Yeah, I'm going to wind down now. So again, I'm kind of confused. Like I always say that I swirl between George Perez and John Byrne as my favorite superhero comic book. I'm swirling on this. As much as I hate to admit it, I see Rich Johnson's argument that comics are booming because this is comics and it is selling. It's like saying pizza sales are one of the biggest American foods, including Domino's and Little Caesars. Well, Domino's and Little Caesars are pizza, but they're not what I'm a Italian from New York. You know what I mean? But they are pizza. But we're not. I'm talking about the mom and pop shops. Yeah, but we're talking about pizza. So I see his argument, and I also see Richard C. Meyer's argument when he's talking about this is the way we collected data for comics for X number of years, for 30 years, for 40 years. And then all of a sudden, and the decline was noticeable and chartable and graphable and empirical. The decline of comic book sales were going, and then all of a sudden in 1 year, we included manga, we included Scholastic, and we included crowdfunding. And then look, comics are booming. Yes, I see that point too. But those are comics. So I think what we need to do is a compromise. If we're talking about comic sales, we need to clarify what we're talking about. Are we talking about comics? Are we including Domino's and Little Caesars? Are we talking about just the mom and pop stores? You know what I mean? So we need, when anybody says comics are booming, we need to okay, what metrics are you using? I don't know. That's where I'm standing. One book or even a few books aren't the industry as a whole. Comics are not booming. The very fact that people have to engage in it. Again, I can't argue with that. Logic's finest, it lives up to his name again. He's interested more in this, but he will look at X-Men if Wolverine is in it. Fair enough. Just stay away from the Krakoa era. I think they're purposely infected comics. There's no argument there. You can't really explain my opinion. Yes, I don't think anybody I got 48 people watching around. I don't think any of us are going to argue against that. Or Gambit, big into him after we started X-Men 92. That's great. That's good. Well, John, if there's a safe neighborhood, it's like saying safety is booming. Okay. Grasping at one off. Okay. I'm not trying to be contentious. I'm not trying to fight either. I'm literally trying to find an answer. And if this is selling in the millions, then by definition, comics are selling really well. It's just the comic book stores are closing. And again, I'm trying to understand this. I'm not trying to. I really didn't come in here with a predetermined conclusion, trying to prove that conclusion. What is that? Solipsism? Is that what that's called? I really am trying to understand, and I can easily be dissuaded either way. DC Miller and Logic are not wrong. I have to wonder if the situation would be different if Marvel DC would take the hint from Dogman. Yeah. The statement is subjective, then lull, depending on. Yeah. How about this, John? Comics are drastically down, but there are a few rare gems here and there in an industry that's. Yeah. I can't argue with anything he said. I don't want to argue with anybody. I'm kind of tired of arguing with people. I had a week. My kids reading Captain Underpants. My daughter moved on to Bone. Excellent. Bone. Brian, Hojo, do your kids read Bone? Oh, that is like the next step. Bone, if is like, it should be as popular as Harry Potter. Such a wonderful comic. I got my sister-in-law to read it, and she loved it. I don't know blankets. Then my Sandman trades, and then she went to manga and never got into comics. I wish I read the rest of the statement. It's hilarious because people won't call this a comic book. They will call it a comic strip. That's not the point. This book sells because it's irreverent humor that they're finding their reader base. Yeah. I'll call this a comic book. How is this not a comic book? How is this not a comic book? A comic strip is 3 or 4 panels, a gag, the whole story is told in 3 or 4 panels. That's a comic strip. This is a comic book. I really can't see not calling this a comic book. I Good suggestion. I should find a bone collection for Charlotte. Yeah, you could get like the big heavy phone book edition. You could get the really expensive floppies. You could get the I think there's like broken up into chapters. But bone is good. She might be a little too young for it right now, but I don't know. You know your kid better than me. Then we're going right into 2000. Well, Hojo's hardcore. Hojo's hardcore. Go right into Faust. If she's super into Garfield now, but I consider yes, right. That is right. Peanuts. If you remember Wizard of Id, BC, Family Circus. These are comic strips. They came out 4 panels a day, self-contained. And then you had the adventure strips like Milton Caniff or Spider-Man or Conan that were long, but those were comic strips. This all comes out in one time, in one bound edition that tells this is a comic book. I don't see how anybody to call this a comic strip. I think is like willful ignorance. This is a comic book. The debate is, are the sales of this proof that comics are doing good? Brian, there's one massive bone, or you could get the colored versions, colors by a fellow. Yeah, the colored editions look so good. I got the black and white comics, but the colored editions look so good to the point I'm thinking of buying a collected. Mark Miller said it best: the industry follows the big two. As Marvel and DC go, the entire industry goes. Small companies yes, a rising tide floats all boats. Like your boy Zach said, Marvel is the Fisher King, the King Arthur. The health of the king is the health. He said Stan Lee was the Fisher King. And as Stan's health declined, the comics industry as a whole declined. He's absolutely right. But that's why I like Mark. That's why I like Mark. That's why I like your boy Zach. For every time he makes me roll my eyes, he has such an insightful, zeroed in, thought out comic that it's really worth the off days. And he does have off days. Yep. You're absolutely right. No argument. Okay, I liked you guys helping each other out. Yes, Logic. I said about 3 years ago, I was right. The big two are the steaks and stuff at the grocery store. We are the candy bars at the checkout line. Without them, yes, absolutely. If absolutely, that's a good way to put it. And I also can't argue with this. Indie creators need to market themselves better and get their products out consistently and much faster. Yes, and that's why I can't argue with Eric July. He has a good argument. Us crowdfunders were too expensive and too unreliable. He's right. And EVS is right. Consistently putting out bad products, expensive bad products, isn't helpful either. They're both right. I wish they would come to some sort of like compromise instead of this insanity that's going on. And then when I say, talking about me, if I just go on a Brian Bow tirade and just go on and on and on about how horrible Brian Bow is, it creates the forbidden fruit. So many people are going to go check him out, buy comics. It's happening right now. I was the subject of 2 trash casts, and now my subs are up. People are buying my comic. My views are up. Thanks. So whatever. That's a whole nother argument. Dogman success isn't really an open or accessible market. Scholastic, yes, that is an excellent point. Scholastic is a gatekeeper. They're not going to let they shouldn't let Wolf and Betsy in Scholastic. Let's be realistic. But if me and Hojo and Brian were to get together to make some wonderful comics for kids, how would they get in Scholastic? You know what I mean? Like, they are gatekeepers. And to the point that everybody should be kind of a gatekeeper. Like, you don't just want anything to go into Scholastic. But yes, I know what you're saying. You want them to be more open to like less pervy stuff. Eric Hate July, he's marketing, getting products on time and increasing volume. Again, I don't argue. Brian Bow is the worst. If we could all 50 of us agree on one thing, that Brian Bauer is the word. Yeah. Even Brian agrees with that one. Who knew Dogman would lead to such a great conversation? This is why I love. Thank you. That really hits me in the feels. Thank you. And I got to say, this is completely inspired by Brian Bauer. And I kind of shied away from saying his name because I didn't know if what's been going on with me and my channel the past week. If I'm trying to, I don't want anybody else to catch any flack from the hand grenade. So yeah, I was kind of shying away. But this is totally inspired by my conversation with Brian Bauer. I would never make kids comics. Yes, absolutely. I keep saying that we should make children's comics, but I don't want to either. But I think it's something that, maybe, I don't know. Like, I have fantasies of my comic taking off, and I make a spin-off comic, and I make my own comic, and I get into the comic shops. I'm retiring from my full-time job in a couple of years. Like, could I spin this into like another career? And if so, I would love to make children's books. I would love to also make Vertigo style, like, adulter books with some R-rated stuff in it. But I do think that the time is ripe for some creative people to make books for the Charlottes, for Hojo's 6 years old, and more importantly, market them and get them out into their hands, because it doesn't do anybody any good. Like J-Bot is doing it, actually, with Berserker. But we got to get Berserker into Charlotte's hands, into Hojo's kids' hands. It's a really good concept, But I don't want to make those books. I don't care about drama. Just market better, put out books regularly. 2 to 4 years between books is not conducive to growth. Yeah, and also in EVS's defense, because I try to be fair whether or not I've been attacked. EVS's fans don't care. EVS's fans know what they're getting. They know the weight. So, Eric July, mind your own business. Is that fair to say also? But he's doing it to bolster himself up, and EVS is doing it to bolster. So I understand all 3 points of view. Mind your own business, but I'm not going to mind my own business. I'm going to do it because drama sells, and they're, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, quote Goodfellas, one dog's going one way, one dog's going over the other, and I'm just looking over here going, what do you want from me? I'm seeing early reviews of Gooding. That's shocking considering it's my parent. Now make the comic you dream about. That's what I'm doing. That's legit what I'm doing. I'm making the comic that I'm dreaming about. And I promise it'll get better with every issue. I'm getting better with every issue. Matter of fact, last night, that's one of the things I talked to Aaron Sparrow about, is if, when on my before I hit print, he's going to read my comic, let me know if I need to work on stuff. I'm so, now I got eyeballs on me, because it's going to get, what is it, the red pencil or the blue pencil? I just make books and have a great time, and you're doing a good job. And it's amazing because you're not shying away from fighting with people, and you're doing something right. So good, God bless you, Hojo. Every book won't be good, but 2 to 4 years for one book. Yeah. I mean, what's 12 years for one story? I don't remember the details. There are other guys making innocent kids book these days. Problem is they're being published by comic book publishers seem to be locked into that. Yeah. I don't know the solution. I'm literally asking Vincent, make books for kids then they're not seen as comics. Yeah, this is a comic. Perfect example, Otis Frampton in his book Oddly Normal. See, and I didn't know that. I remember what's his name? Eric Shanauer. He did those Wizard of Oz books. Those were wonderful. And that was Marvel. Marvel was making kids books. They were the classic. Why can't I think of the author's name who does the Wizard of Oz? That's driving me nuts. One of my favorite books. And he's making the Wizard of Oz comics. They were wonderful. Comes back to marketing yourself and your product. Yeah, that's something I would like to learn. I need to learn more. I absolutely, I know it's a weakness. Yeah, not every crowd. Yes. We're talking about the extreme examples. Indie comics need to break out of the comic stank. Who's calling me? Every time I go live, somebody has to call me. Oh, probable spam. Probable spam is calling me. Indie comics need to break out of the comic stank. They need to be hardcover works of art, because that's what. Yeah, I would like to, if I get to issue 6, make a nice collected trade paperback, and then maybe like a hardcover. That's what Dave Brink, Genuine Comics. He's making a hardcover artist edition. You know, I'm in, and then I see guys like or women like why can't I think of her name? Oh, she was just on my channel, but she does that zombie book with the zombie grizzly bear, Big James. She has like hot sauce, and she makes like stuffed dolls, and she makes movies, and then there's little clues in the comic that you could go to a website and watch like a secret movie. That's so creative. That's so creative. John, you say, let's be fair. Eric doesn't even mention EVS, so let's be fair. Okay. I didn't say that he mentioned, just to clarify too, because I know my words are going to get back at me. I didn't say Eric July meant. If I did say that he mentions EVS, I misspoke. What I'm saying is Eric July went after crowdfunding as a whole, saying it takes too long in between issues, and he's not wrong. If I said that July mentioned EVS, then I misspoke, and I retract that. But yes. I try to be fair. I don't always forget the drama. Just put out books. Absolutely. Aaron Sparrow is my editor. Good guy, man. Did you see me talking to him last night? I was like, I feel like I made a best friend last night. You have no idea what you're talking about. You want to fight about it? You want to fight about it? Marcus, that's true. What did Marcus say? It's also about yes, right. Dave Brink makes a comic on time. Alterna comics come out on time. Hojo's comics. Your PTP and Sparrow shows very. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I always get so nervous, especially when somebody like I never met PTP before. I had messaged him when I first got Ultra Star, and he said, "Sure, I'd love to come on," and then I never heard him. And it took one of my buddies, my friend Mike, he was invited to PTP's wedding. You know, that's how good friends they are. He was just like, "Why are you avoiding my friend John?" And he was like, "Oh." And PTP even says he's shy going on camera. You know, not everybody likes going on camera and talking. Scotty Young's on. Oh, yes, okay. Scotty Young. Did I say it wrong? I said Shanauer. Yeah, that's the guy who does Bronze Age. 2 completely different comics. Marketing is kind of important. Yeah, I got to learn to market. Even 1 to 2 years between books isn't conductive growth. Yes, absolutely. Like I said, my comic hasn't been delivered yet, and I'm already up to page 7 of my second book. I don't know. I would like to close the gap as much as possible. I want great art, also great writing, but for me, there's something else to give. If long times are the norm, then increase your volume, hire writers and artists. Can't argue. Can't argue. Again, I can't argue with logic. You can't have quick books coming out and then still use funding. There's just no way. The most you could do is crank out maybe 2 a year like I do, unless you have a huge buffer. Yeah. Let's be realistic. I'm a one-man guy. I hire out everybody. I look to Hojo for inspiration. Alterna has a whole, slate of books by different creators. Brian Bow is doing a one-man show, and then he comes out with like 3 comics at a time. So I'm learning. Right now my main concern is getting my first book out, and then I'm already learning. I'm already streamlining the process for my second book. My first book out isn't even, and I still got mistakes to make because I got the pre-printing. I gotta talk to the printer, and then I gotta get my books in my hand, approve the printing, and then send them out. Yes, I'm sure I'll make more mistakes. The creative process is a difficult one. A successful process, even more. To become a mainstream IP is the top of the bill, right? And that's the whole reason why they race swap and gender swap, because they don't want to do that work. They don't want their characters to attain the gravitas on their own. That's stolen gravitas. Kamala Khan, just give Kamala Khan somebody else's name, throw in a book. You don't want to earn that gravitas. That's why I don't like the Blue Marvel. I feel he didn't earn the gravitas. John, I'm a stickler for accuracy. Urchel, I never attack crowd. Okay, then I stand corrected. He said that many creators abuse crowd. Okay, I stand corrected. Again, I major difference in a false. Okay, absolutely, absolutely. If that's the, I'll take your word for it, and I'll take your word for it for two reasons. One, I don't watch Eric July's videos. So I don't, to be honest, I don't really know what he said except for the two times that I talked to him. Those are literally the only two times I heard his words, was when he was on my channel. I'm not into that Blaze Network stuff, and so I never heard of him until he was making a comic book. So I stand corrected if I said the wrong thing, and thank you for correcting me. So what I did hear that he said, I heard from other sources that I should have been smart enough to realize that maybe it's the telephone game, and then maybe it was purposely strawmanned. So yes, thank you, Logic. I will take your word for it over mine, because 90% of the time my word is wrong. Yes, stolen gravitas. I don't claim to coin many phrases, but I coined stolen gravitas and I coined Pinocchio. Put those on my tombstones. The Dogman false narrative, deflect away from it. Absolutely. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why I did this. My goal all along was the alternate model of several issues per campaign until I could tell direct to the own website. Okay. Hojo was right about the timing of releases in crowdfunding. Dude, why are we still talking about? Yeah. I didn't realize he had his own press secretary now. Yeah, it's also false narrative and confirmation bias. Okay. Logic find, and anybody, 47 people in the chat, correct me if I say anything wrong. Correct me if I say anything wrong. And I sometimes I misspeak. So correct me if I say anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. John only brought it up as a reason. Yeah. And again, I'm not drama farming. This is about Dogman, So Heroic Tales comic book on Fund My Comic, and also on Kickstarter. So this is an hour and 42 minutes, a lot longer than I expected, a lot livelier than I expected. So what's the conclusion? What's the conclusion? Who's right? Is Rich Johnson right, or is your boy Zach right? And I will say that they are, as much as I hate to admit it, they're both right. And I hate to admit it because I don't like Rich Johnson. And we got Matt Bauer. How you doing, Matt? Show me your comic collection, Matt. I realize that I've never even heard him mention it since I've been watching the stream, and you keep, yeah, you're right. John, I'd like to one day talk to you about John Byrne. Come on. Let me know. Private message me on Twitter at Zentorian2000. Private message me or email me at johnslongbox@yahoo.com, and we'll set up a time and place. Absolutely. I'd love to talk about John Byrne. The only thing I would love to talk more about John Byrne is to talk to John Byrne himself. That's my holy grail. That is my holy grail. Did I miss any comments? We got Hail John, Hail Matt. Speaking of Dogman, what about that Horseman? I don't know, but when I first heard Horseman, I got so excited. I thought it was going to be like, if I was to make up a Horseman character, it would be like a guy, like a Crusader guy, like some sort of French armor with a flail, battling crime, just sick of it all. And that's what I would do. But I don't know. Guy with the horse head kind of, not going to lie, put me off. Oh, you don't have Twitter? Okay, so that's fine. My email is John's Longbox, no apostrophe, johnslongbox@yahoo.com, and email me, and we'll set up a time, and I'll send you the links to the email, and we'll talk. I would love to talk about John Byrne. I'm wrong. Probably am. I'm always wrong. They're both right, but you can't count Dogman sales with comic sales. And we're back to square one. So let's rewind this video. John Byrne won't stop talking about himself long enough to talk to you. And he'll probably scold me, Dogman is so much better than Captain Underpants. Well, I never read Captain Underpants, but it's the same creators, right? Yes, it says right here. So there you go. So what is the conclusion inconclusive? So there you go. John Byrne is my friend. Yeah, can't argue. All right, so in conclusion, I'm doing the hands. I see Rich. In conclusion, As much as I'm loath to admit it, I see Rich Johnson's point. In conclusion, as much as I'm glad to admit it, because I like your boy Zach, I see your boy Zach's point. So, you know, uh, and I'll take Mark Miller's word for it. To me, he's the a living authority on comic books. We're at the end of the second 30-year cycle of comics, and this is transforming. So I don't know. Charlotte says Dogman is the best. How are we going to argue with that? She's probably the one here who actually read them all. I don't argue with 7-year-old girls. You're not going to win. Dogman is a novel or a comic book? It's a comic book. It's a graphic novel. Are graphic novels comic books? Is Mouse a comic book? Mouse, the Watchmen was 12 floppies, but you know what I mean? It is a Life Force, my favorite Will Eisner. Is that a comic book? A Contract with God, is that a comic book? It's a graphic novel. Are animated movies for kids movies? Is Charlotte's Web a movie? It's made for kids. It's animated. It's a cartoon. It's a movie. All of the Scholastic Book Garfield collections the best. Oh, okay. That's good. Garfield, good. Jim Davis. Sorry it took so long. I'm at work cooking up pomodoro and other tasty to make my living. Oh, I worked at kitchens for so many years. I hated it at the time, but now I miss it. Every time I got my Scholastic pamphlet, all I would order were Garfield collections. I read, yep. I remember, when I was a kid, it wasn't called Scholastic. I think it was called Weekly Reader, but maybe it was Weekly Reader by Scholastic. Anybody know what year Scholastic started? Comic book for me, then I'd say, then about Dog. I'm not quite sure I understand. Felsbug, my son loves Dogman. Okay, well, this is an hour and 45 minutes. So I'm going to conclude. My conclusion is if you want to talk about comics are booming, or if you want to talk about comics are dying, you really have to, it's more subtle than that. Life is complicated, everything is complicated, and we are in a transition period. So like, to me, when somebody says comics are booming, the way I am, that's an invitation for a discussion. Okay, let's talk about this. What metrics are you including? So that's the way I would go about it. I don't think there's a conclusive answer. I think the answer is, let's discuss it. Define your terms. Is that fair? Is that a fair conclusion? If kids like it, that's all that matters. They don't care about the drama. Yes, absolutely. And I'm not arguing with Charlotte, especially at the day after her birthday. So what do you think? Do you think that's a fair conclusion? My assessment that if when somebody says comics are booming, define your metrics. By what standards? I'm not going to take your word for it, because there is a legitimate bone of contention. There is how are you defining that? That's also a good point. Contracting isn't dying, but is it? Less sales, less customers is contracting? Is that just a nice way of saying dying? Is that just like a way of sparing your feelings? Less sales, less customers? Would any market, if I was the guy who ran 7-Eleven and there was less hot dogs, don't worry about it. The hot dogs sales are contracting. They're not dying. Never believe anything you hear and half of what you see. Is that a Yogi Berra quote? Well, I don't know. I'll leave with some. Of course, my computer's telling me to look at my memories. I don't want to look at my memories. They could get to the point where they are no longer sustainable. So, that's Mark Twain. I should have realized. Mark. Well, you can see why I confused Yogi Berra and Mark Twain, right? You can see. So, I'll just stay until I get some. I want to get some validation over here. What do you think? Like, if somebody says comics are dying, to me, the only logical, I don't have a concrete answer. The only logical is, well, define what you mean by that. Like, I can't just say, well, actually, I need to know, how are you defining comics? Because there's really more than one answer. You know, I know right away people in this chat are going to say I'm wrong, and I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. So, what do you think? What do you think? Radio killed print, TV killed radio, internet killed TV. Each contracted, not dying. Good points. Good points. Video killed the radio star. Yes. When was the last time anybody listened to regular radio? You know. I tell people comics are dead. I don't tell people that. I say they're contracting. I'm going to say they're contracting. I don't think okay. Contracting just makes me feel better, but it's the same point. They are compared to the quality of years past, so it's not the same thing. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. The only thing that this video cleared up in my mind, that Dogman is a comic. I literally didn't know what Dogman was. It's a comic. To me, hands down, no argument. Dogman is a comic. It's a comic book. So, but should it be considered in comic book sales? Should it? It depends. It depends. This is a confusing topic, and I would. Oh my God, how cool would that be to host a discussion between Rich Johnson and your boy Zach to discuss this? Oh my God. That would just explode my eyeballs, but it'll never happen. Oh, don't say never. But oh my God, that would be the greatest. That would be the greatest video of them all. All right, so I see a couple of more comments, and then I'm going to shut this down. Is playing with the hoop and stick contracted? Is vaudeville dead, or is it just Because I'm sure somewhere in America there's a vaudeville show, but is it dead? At what point can we say, the quality I long give from the big two, the quality of comics is the indies. Is burlesque dead? There's art forms that were big. Is skiffle? Does anybody remember skiffle? In between, big band and rock and roll. Is skiffle dead? Speaking as a horror comic, I can hear things do come back from the dead. And they live in your basement, Brian, or unlive in your basement. Maybe comics. Yes. That's what I'm hoping. You guys know I love comics. So I guess I could just, spin the wheels for another hour or two, but I think I'll close this down. I meant to say the quality in the big two is gone. The quality, yes. No argument there. No argument there. So I think that's a good positive quote to end on. And I'm going to say thanks a lot. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, Brian, for giving me this idea for this. I'm going to read this now. I'm going to sit and read this. A few panels made me laugh. So at the very, very least, I'll have a fun, pleasant read. So thanks a lot, everybody. All right. Bye-bye.